Shalom and welcome to our second video on Kiddush and Havdalah. We're going to cover now the text of the Kiddush, and this is the text that the rabbis wrote, but includes the obligations that we know from the Torah's perspective one would have to say. Now remember, this Kiddush was supposed to be just an oral declaration according to the Torah. Later on, the rabbis came along and added the cup of wine that we call the kos of Kiddush. But this was just the Kiddush. Like all brachos, we start off and say that God, you are the source of all blessing, the master of the entire world. Asher Kiddishanu b'mitzvosov, and when there's ever a bracha recited on a mitzvah, we say who sanctified us and commanded us in mitzvos, v'ratza banu, and chose us, v'shabbos kadsho, and his Shabbat, right, b'ahava, with love, meaning that when God did this, it was a sign that we took and anthropomorphically as a sign of God's love for us, v'ratzon, and his appreciation of us, his choosing of us. Hinchilanu, he gave us zikaron l'maaseh bereishis, something that we can always mention and remember the creation, right, that occurred. Tchila l'mikrei kodesh, right, that was at the beginning of our calling out in sanctity. Zecher l'tzias Mitzrayim. Now here's probably the most important part of Kiddush, because we mentioned the Exodus from Egypt, which seems to be extraneous from Shabbat. What does the Exodus of Egypt have to do with Shabbat? Why do we mention the freeing from Mitzrayim, from Egypt? And the answer is because what we're praising God here is not just the God that created the world and then stepped away, but providentially he continues to rule the world and influence what happens in the world and run what happens in the world. And that's why we bring up Egypt, because when we left Egypt, that showed that God didn't just create the world, but through the plagues, the splitting of the sea, the entire episode showed that God was still very much involved in the world. Kivanu v'charta, he chose us, the Jewish people, v'osanu kidashta, and us he made sanctified. Excuse me. He sanctified us. He made us sacred. Mikol ha'amim, from all the other nations. V'shabbos kadshecha, and his Shabbat he also made sanctity. Bi'ava, again in love. V'ratzon hinchatanu, he left it for us. Baruch atah Hashem, God, you're the source of all blessing. Mekadesh Shabbat, the one who sanctifies Shabbat. Beautiful text, and that's how we enter Shabbat, with that praise. Okay, hope to see you in our next video on Kiddush and Havdalah.